Next time you are in pain, which happens to all of us sooner or later, go for the red pill. Because science. Multiple studies have shown that red pills work better for quickly reducing pain. And if you need to relax, well, go for the blue. What's even crazier, now that you know it, it's going to work even better. Because placebo. However, be mindful, placebo has an evil twin. There is actually a whole family of brothers and uncles like that, with the power to shape your life in a positive, or if you're not careful, in a very negative way, which might even cost you your life. Because the power of belief. Remember that Matrix scene with the pills? Well, they should have been white. Because the colors, they are just icing on the cake. But the choices you make and the beliefs you follow, that is what's going to shape your reality. So, take this pill, check out, and the story ends. Or stay with me, and we'll see how deep the placebo hole goes. Cheers. You are on Living a Smart channel, a non-profit dedicated to making you live longer through common sense, engineering, and of course, science. And here's my favorite study done all the way back in 2002 on real patients with massive knee pain known as osteoarthritis, osteobone, arse joint, itis, inflammation, which requires surgery. So imagine you are in pain every day and you wait for months to get into the operating room. And finally, the day comes, you get in, you are sedated, and the surgeon makes a tiny scratch line, stitches it back up, and that's all. He calls it a day. You'd expect to wake up still hurting and probably pissed off. But you feel better, you walk better, you have less pain. In fact, you get the same improvements as people who actually got operated on the same day. Why? Because your brain thought you were fixed. And your body listened and made it so. Both groups were followed for years and showed the same results. But wait, it gets even better or weirder. Another study took patients with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. But unlike the previous study where people didn't know who gets what, this study was what's called an open placebo, which means patients were told, you know, placebo works great for IBS. We have data on that. But let's try something new. Let's give you sugar pills. That's why it's called open. You know that you get a fake pill. Controls got nothing at all. And the third group got another placebo, which was masked as the real deal. So the whole idea was to compare a regular placebo, which we know works when hidden under the guise of medicine, with a sugar pill that says on the label, I am a sugar pill. The result, both placebo and sugar worked much better than nothing, and practically the same between each other. With only one significant difference, placebo had double the side effects, something we'll get to in a second. But bottom line is, when you know what placebo is, you can take a known placebo and the knowledge of how placebo works becomes a placebo in itself. You're welcome. Basically, when your mind decides, your body listens. How amazing is that? And that's only the beginning. As I said, the placebo has an evil twin who shapes immediate pain and two uncles who shape your whole life. Take statins, for example. Let's say we're going to call this statin. They save lives, and I did multiple deep dives here, and there is almost no doubt about that. Well, there is always a small room for doubt, but evidence is pretty solid. Millions take statins every day for very good reason and lower their risk of heart attacks and brain damage. But what about side effects? Because so many online influencers say that statins are toxic, and so many people get muscle pain, get mental fog, and sudden energy dips. You can probably already guess where this is going, right? to another study, of course, called Samson, done just a few years ago. They enrolled people who reported such side effects and rotated them through empty bottles, bottles with real statins, and bottles of sugar pills to see what happens. When people took nothing, they felt almost fine, as expected. When they took statins, they got their side effects. And when they took sugar pills, they got the same side effects. Slightly less as the number goes, but statistically the same side effects. And that's some old school voodoo for you. Placebo's evil twin. And his name, nocebo. When you expect to get hurt, you get hurt. So it's same belief engine, just a different direction. And if you let it run unchecked, it can cost you pain, side effects, or even years and years of your life. On the other hand, if you believe that subscribing to a longevity-oriented channel will orient you towards healthier choices and will make you live longer, the buttons are right there. So, we've seen how belief can heal you or hurt you. But the most dangerous thing it can do, and quite often does, is quietly hold you back without you even noticing. Year 1939, University of California, Berkeley. Young George Danzig is running late for his class. He's out of breath, flustered, and slides through the back door into his seat and sees two math problems written on the board. Oh, great, homework or some stupid problems to get ready for the finals. And he just missed the explanation. So he scribbles the problem down in his notebook and takes them home. And the problems are indeed stupidly hard and take a few days of grinding to solve. But George hands in his assignment like it's not a big deal and moves on with his life. Few days later, there is a knock at his door. He opens it and sees his professor, 𝐒𝐩𝐿 𝐍𝐨𝐭𝐞, with his eyes like teacups. "Young man," says the professor, slightly shaking, "do you have any idea what you just did? Those two problems on the board? They weren't homework. They were two of the most famous unsolved problems in statistical math. No one had cracked them, until now, that is. Because no one had ever told George they were unsolvable, and unlike everyone else in his class, he just didn't know. And he wasn't trying to be brilliant, he was just trying to catch up on homework. And that's the thing, quite often you don't need to be smarter than everyone else. You just need to have a little conviction that the problem you face can be solved. Because just ask yourself, would George have even tried if he'd known that the problems were impossible? And that's the danger. The chain of past failures can really slow you down to the point where even trivial tasks become unsolvable, like in this European country's word scramble. But there is a mechanism to resharpen your mind, and this is critical for everything in your life, from health to success. Living is smart, aging is bad, and let's take a look at the problem and the solution in more details right here.